Hello. All right. Today we're going to go over how to benchmark some retrieval algorithms using the new LangChain benchmarks package, as well as the public dataset that we're releasing. Specifically, the public dataset is for question answering over LangChain documentation. And so we've provided about 86 examples of inputs and expected outputs, and as well as some utilities for doing some basic kind of like ingestion. And then we've evaluated a bunch of different methods for doing retrieval and then retrieval augmented generation. So generating answers to those questions. We can then kind of like score each retrieval or generation method. We'll kind of like change up both pieces. We'll score that against the ground truth and see how we do. And so we've done that on a bunch of architectures so far. And what we're going to do in this video is we're going to try it out on a new one, because part of the value in open sourcing this is that it can serve as a way for people to benchmark, all the different retrieval algorithms, all the different models that are coming out, and see how it actually does. So we're going to be working off of this this notebook right here. I'm going to basically be copying some parts over to my Jupyter notebook, running it, changing some stuff up because I want to change stuff up. I want to evaluate different things. Specifically, the thing that I want to evaluate for this video is some sort of like multi-query, query expansion type of retriever. So in typical RAG, the question comes in and then you look up 5 or 6 documents relevant to that question. What I want to do is instead expand a single question into 2 or 3 or 4 different questions, look up documents for all of those, and then answer based on all of those documents. The idea behind this is that when you're looking things up, it might be better to break down the overall user question into distinct sub-questions. Look those things up and then respond with an answer over all of those docs. So I'm going to try implementing that and then benchmarking it. So I've got this. I'm going to copy some of the code over here and install everything that's needed. I'm then going to set some environment variables. So let's copy this. I need my LangChain API key. So I'm going to go here, grab my API key from here. If you don't have access to LangSmith, shoot me a DM on Twitter. That's probably the best way, and I'll get you an access code. I'm going to do this in a little bit, but I'm going to do it along with the other environment variables. I'm going to do that. I'm going to pause when I do that so that you don't see my screen and my secrets there. The other environment variables that I'm going to set at the same time are these. I'm not actually going to use Hugging Face. I'm just going to use OpenAI for everything. So I'm going to set my LangChain API key, my Anthropic API key, and then my OpenAI API key. Let me do that, and then I'll come back. Okay, we're back. I set my API keys. Now I'm going to follow this code. So I'm going to use the LangChain benchmarks code to check out some. We have a variety of tasks in here. The one that I'll be doing is this LangChain Docs Q&A task. We'll go into more details on some of the other ones, but this is the main ready one as of today. So if we take a look at it, I can see that there's a dataset ID. I can click on this. This is a public dataset that we've published under the LangChain org. So you can see that there's 86 different examples, and then there's also a bunch of test runs that we ran, along with some scores for how well those did. So once I've done that, or I haven't done anything yet, I'm just kind of like looked at what everything is. Now I'm going to clone this public data set. This is going to move it into my LangSmith account. So now if I click on it, this is in my personal LangSmith account, and I have no tests on it because I just cloned it in here, but these inputs and outputs are all the same from the data set that we collected. So if we take a look at some of the questions, we can take a look and we see question, will this work? From langchain.chat models, import chat OpenAI, LLM equals chat OpenAI model equals Claude 2. And then the answer is here, no, Claude 2 is a closed source model developed by Anthropic. The chat OpenAI class interfaces with OpenAI's chat model. So these are, so there's 86 examples. Some of these have, simple answers like yes, no. Other of these have longer natural language output. So once we do that, we're now going to set up the retriever. I'm not going to change too much about the retriever in this video. I'm going to use the basic retriever. The only slight difference that I'll do is I'm going to change this from Hugging Face embeddings to OpenAI embeddings. And then this stuff, so this is loading some of the docs that we're going to use. And then this is creating the retriever. This abstracts away a little bit of what's actually going into creating the retriever. It's a kind of like handy method for just creating a simple retriever. If you want to change up some of the logic of this, the logics in the LangChain benchmarks code, we'll probably try to make this a little bit more apparent in the future, what exactly is going on. But for all intents and purposes, this is creating a really simple vector store retriever. So let's run this, and it will do some work. While it's running, we can take a look at the next cell. So here's where we actually set up the chain that we use. And so let's take a look at what's going into this chain. We've got this format docs function. This takes in a list of documents and returns a string. So it's basically formatting the documents into some context that we can pass into the language model. This could be one thing that we play around with. We could play around with kind of like the tokens used to denote or pass in various metadata or source or content. This is definitely something we can play around with. This is the prompt. Again, this is something we can modify. Right now it's pretty simple. You are an AI assistant answering questions about LangChain, respond solely based on document content, and then the human question. We're going to be using the Anthropic new model that was just released. And then this is generating the final response. It's the prompt LLM, and then it just turns it into a string. It turns it into a string because the chat model returns a chat message by default. And then if we look at the chain, we can see that we are adding in a new variable. This variable is called context. We're getting context by taking the question, passing it to the retriever, passing the response to format docs. This is getting a string. So this is assigning a new variable called context with type string, and then it's passing it along to the response generator. The response generator takes question and context. So context is coming from the retrieval, questions getting passed along. So runnable assign just adds in a new variable. So it passes along everything that's in it up to that point. We can see that this looks like it is done. So let's copy this code, but we want to do some changes. Specifically what we want to do, all of this looks fine. All of this looks pretty fine. What we want to do is we want to change this from taking the question, passing it to the retriever, and then just formatting the documents. We want to take this question, generate a bunch of sub-questions. From there, we want to look up all of those questions with the retriever, combine all the documents, put them into a single string, and then that's what we're going to use as context. So what we're going to do to generate those sub-questions is we're going to go here, and this is, we call this, there's two different ways that we kind of refer to this. We call this multi-query or query expansion. So I'm just looking in the prompt hub to see if there's any prompts that I can use to kind of like help with this. Query expansion doesn't return anything. If we do multi-query, we can see that there are a few different prompts, including one that I created when I was checking this out, preparing for this. Let me try to delete this, or I'll just work with it. Basically, if you want to work with so you can see that this is forked directly from Jacob multi-query retriever. What I don't like about this prompt is that it's asking it to generate different versions of a given user question, and I really want to generate more like sub-questions. So if I try this out in a playground, if I pass in, I also don't like the fact that I have to specify query count here. I want it to like dynamically choose how many it should generate. But let's just say there's 3, and then let's just say the question is like, how do I use OpenAI with ChromaDB? Let's pick a model. Let's pick, 3.5 turbo seems fine. So if I look at all the questions that are generated, they're all basically like variants of the same question, which are exactly what the template asks for, what the prompt asks for. But I really want more specific things. Like I want something like, how do I use OpenAI? How do I use ChromaDB? It can look up things for both of those, and then it can kind of maybe figure out how to use them together, along with the original question or some rephrased of how to use them together in case there is a document just around that. So basically I want to modify this. So what I've done, what I did was I clicked the fork button and then saved it as my own. So now what I'm going to do is I want to modify this a little bit. So also I think there's some weird indentation in this prompt. So I'm going to say like I want to generate 1, 2, 5 different sub questions or alternate versions of a given user question to retrieve relevant document images from the vector database by generating multiple versions of the same user question, by generating sub-questions, you can break down questions or concepts that you can break down questions that refer to multiple concepts into distinct questions. This will help you get the relevant documents for constructing a final answer. Yeah, I'm fine with XML tags. So now let's try this out. How do I use OpenAI ChromaDB together? Let's use chat OpenAI for this. Let's start seeing. So it's still kind of focused on how to use them together. If multiple concepts are present in the question, you should break into sub-questions with one question for each concept. Let's try this out. That's amazing. Okay, so that's what I want. I might have like overfit slightly on this example. That's fine. There's a lot of prompt engineering that goes into things like this. We can evaluate this and see how it does. That's the whole point of this video. So let's commit this to there. If we go back here, cool, it is updated. Let's copy this because we're going to use this in our code. And then from LangChain Docs, chat models import chat OpenAI. That's fine. Oh yeah, don't want to do that quite yet. Chain. Let's call this qgen equals qgen.invoke question how to use OpenAI ChromaDB. Cool. Okay, so it's generating each of those. So I also want to probably keep around the original question as well. So I basically want to take the original question, generate some documents, generate some code questions, get some documents for those, look them all up, combine all the results. Fine. So now I need to add in something that basically splits this apart. Oh, I also want to add in a stop sequence. Because I want it to stop when it, this is just going to force it to stop when it generates that token. Now let's see this. Okay, cool. I don't like how it's doing 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's go back here. Let's open this in the playground. Let's let's wrap these in quotes and see if that fixes some of it. Need to switch this. How to use OpenAI and ChromaDB. Okay, so that seems good. So it's wrapping in quotes. I'd still, these quotes are going to be like a little bit annoying to parse out. So let's just do bullets. And, okay, cool. Oh yeah, you can see there. Okay, so I don't have the stop token here. So it kind of like runs on and creates 2 blocks. With my stop token, it'll save that. So let's commit this. Now if I pull down this new thing, cool, I get back some bullets. So what I'm going to do now is I want to basically write some output parser or some parsing logic that's going to split this into a list of questions. So let's do text string. I can first, I want to, let's get rid of this. So let's do text equals text dot strip questions. And let's do questions equals clean text dot split new line dash space return questions. Let's add this up here. Let's now pipe this in to split. Let's run this. Okay, so it's getting 1, so we can just do, it's getting 1 like weird thing there. So we can just do return Q for Q in questions if Q, I think this actually works. Cool. So now I've got a list of questions. Let me just strip that and strip that. That will get rid of the new line that I saw there. Okay, so this gets a list of questions. Now what I want to do is I basically want to create this. Okay, so I have this QGen. This returns a list of questions. One thing that I could do is basically just QGen retriever dot map. So what's going on here, and actually let me combine this into retriever chain equals QGen. This is going to take in a question, return a list. I'm then going to do retriever.map. This is going to take each element of the list, pass it to the retriever. So it's going to take a question, pass it to the retriever. Take second question, pass it to the retriever. Then I need something to flatten this list of documents or format docs. So I have this here. What I'm going to do is I'm now going to create a version that is format list docs. This is going to be a sequence of sequences because it's getting here, it's each element that retriever returns is a list. So it's going to get back a list of lists. And then I'll do doc lists for docs in doc lists that so there's going to be some weird things because of the index I. So what I'm just going to do is I equals 0 for docs, for doc and docs, I plus equals 1. Cool. And then let's do format docs. This is a retriever chain. Let's try this. Let's see what happens. So this should get back a really long string because it's going to have all the docs concatenated. So yeah, we get back this really long string. Cool. We're using Claude 2 because it has a really long context window. This is still a really long. All right. So we're getting a lot of context back. Maybe this is good. Maybe this is bad. This is why we have evaluations. So now we can do retriever chain. And I don't actually, so this plucks out the question, but I don't even need to pluck out the second question. I can just do like this. And let's wrap this in. So this is just some nice config to make it show up nicely in traces. But I can just do this. This is going to take everything, pass it to retriever chain. Retriever chain expects a dictionary with a key question, so that's perfect. Cool. Okay, so this is my new modified chain. Let's try it out on this question. If we're curious about what's going on under the hood, we should be able to see things in our we probably haven't set tracing equals to true. Okay, so let's actually do that before we go any further, because that'll be very helpful. Import os dot if I want to have things logged here, I can go to setup. I need to set this equals to true. I wonder if this will work if I have to restart the notebook. If I have to restart the notebook, then I will not do that. And I think I may actually have to. Yeah, okay. So it's not working. The tracing isn't working because I haven't set the environment variable before. That's fine. Would have been good to do so I could see what's going on, but it looks like the response that it's giving is reasonable. Actually, I think it would be really cool to see what's going on. So let me pause the notebook, or let me pause the video, restart the notebook with that environment variable set, and then we can see what's going on under the hood, because I think it's going to be really cool. Okay, so it was actually running before. It just wasn't logging to the project I expected it to be logging to, because I had some other environment variables set from before. So I changed it up. I'm now logging to a dedicated project for this, multi-query evals. If we click into what was just logged from this run, we can see a few things that are going on. So we can see that there's this step, which is basically going to be the retrieval step that has this format docs thing, and then there's this chain that has generate response, and this is where it's generating the response. So this is the retrieval, this is the response. The retrieval is using this multi-query thing. So if we look in here, this is the prompt that we had. It's taking in the question and it's generating 2 sub-questions to ask. We're then parsing that, and then there's 2 calls to a retriever here. So in each of these, we can see basically the documents that are returned. I'm actually curious whether these are the same or not. So how-to cookbook, LangChain expression language introduction, how-to cookbook, LangChain expression language introduction. So these are actually returning the same things. One thing we could and should do is deduplicate these in format list of docs. I'm debating whether it's worth doing that live or not. Probably will leave that as an exercise left to the reader. But then that's all passed into this Anthropic model. And so you can see the very long system prompt here because it has lots and lots of context. And then it returns this. Actually, I probably will spend some time deduplicating it. So we can see here that, okay, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this formatted docs hashes. I'm not, could be a set to be faster, but not too worried. I'm just going to hash the content for now. I could hash everything. Actually, I have the docs string. actually, wait, yeah, this is going to be way easier than I thought. If doc string not in formatted docs, then I'm going to append increase I. Okay, so now if I rerun this, hopefully I shouldn't change the answer too much. It actually should just be completely deduplicating things. And I can peek at what's going on under the hood. This again runs in real time, so I can kind of see what's going on. Still pending a bunch. All right, there we go. I was just debating whether to pause the video or not. It's a good thing that it went through. So now if we look at what's going on, we can see that the retriever, oh, okay, so it's changing it up. It's actually generating 3 sub-questions. So it's generating, 3 sub-questions now. I don't have temperature set to 0, so we are seeing some randomness. This is a cookbook, and then cookbook introduction, how-to LangChain expression language, cookbook introduction, how-to LangChain expression language. Okay, so it's getting the same docs. If we now look at format list of docs, this is, it should be shorter than, let's make this wider. What we can actually do to see if it's shorter or not is we can look at some stats. So in this final thing, if we click into here, we can look at the input, and we can see this input here. We can look at some of the things on the side. So this is right about 10,000 total tokens. If we go back to the previous one and we look at everything, this is at about 6,000 total tokens. Why this should be deduplicating? Why is it not deduplicating? It is not deduplicating because we have the I in here. Okay, so what I'm going to do real fast is just look at, okay, so I do need this then, I guess, because I have the I in there. Actually, yeah, let's change this up. Let's change this up a little bit. Let's remove this for now and this for now, and then going to do something like this thing for ID and enumerate formatted docs, remove this, remove this. So now I don't even need I. So basically the I was causing things to be different. That was the only difference. So now I can just format them, deduplicate them along the way, and then add in the I later on. So if we do this, we do this, we do this, we do this, now this should result in fewer tokens. So let's take a look. It's still pending. It'll take a little bit. Awkward pause in the video. There we go. And if we take a look at this trace, we can see here it only uses 3,500 tokens. Yay, we've successfully deduplicated the documents. So that's going to save us some good tokens as we start using this. All right, now we're going to run it over the whole data set and get some evaluations. So let's copy this code. We'll put this here. Let's copy this code. We'll put this here, and this is running on the data set. And we're getting some progress of what's going on. We can take a look at it in LangSmith, and we can see that we're running things. This might actually cause some errors because I have some rate limits on Anthropic that are not super high. Regardless, this is going to take a while to run. So I'm going to pause the video. If I make any changes, I will restart the video and say what I did. But if not, I'll restart it when this is finished running, because this is going to take a little bit, and I don't want to sit here for a while. All right, so we're back. If we look at our notebook, it finished running. We get some nice metrics from our evaluators that we're using. So we calculate the embedding cosine distance, the accuracy score. This uses an LLM, and then a faithfulness score as well. And so if we go into here now, we can see that we have one test run. We can click into it, and we have a bunch of data points. We can look at it. What class type is returned by initialize agent? The right answer is the agent executor class. This gives a more lengthy explanation, but it still says the agent executor class. We can see that, nice. It gives a string score of 1. So this is using the LLM, and it's recognizing that this is the same as this, technically. You know, it's not exactly the same. That's why we have to use an LLM. The embedding cosine distance is, I think that seems to be, yeah, okay, so that's higher than usual. So that's not great. So the main metric that we look at here is this score string accuracy 1. We can do some filters. So we can look for, so let's add less than 0.5. So these are ones that are, actually, let's even make this worse, less than 0.3. Let's try to find ones that are really bad. What does onToolStart mean? So this is a method that is defined on classes, that works with callbacks. Nothing in the docs that we could find. If we want to figure out, like, so this gets a bad answer because it doesn't give the correct answer. At least it's not making up an answer. So we should, you know, we can add other metrics to calculate whether it makes up something or whether it just, I think that actually might be what faithfulness is. One thing we can also do is if we click on this run, we can open the run and we can see what's going on. So we can see everything that's going under here. We can see that we have this multi-query thing that generates, like, what is the meaning of onToolStart? Can you explain the definition of onToolStart? How would you define the term onToolStart? We can then see the retrievers that are used. These are returning slightly different things. Okay, cool. So we're getting some differences. We can then see the model that's being used and the output there. If we go back overall, we can see some overall metrics. So we've got a faithfulness of 0.77 and an accuracy of 0.63. If we compare that to the original public version of the test set, we can see that accuracy, I don't think we didn't run faithfulness on this one. So if we look across accuracy, this is actually crushing all other accuracy metrics. So 0.63, that's higher than the best one, which was the 0.61. So 0.63 is, you know, and I barely did anything here. I think this actually speaks a lot to the power of the multi-query or this query expansion thing. It's really, really powerful. There's like, let me try to find OpenAI retrieval dev day. So when they talk, I'm looking for one image in particular. This one, yeah, okay. So if you look on this, if you look at this image, query expansion, they have this jumping up the gap. Let me close my messages there. If you look at this, it jumps up. It's one of the things that worked, and so I think query expansion is really, really powerful. So yeah, hopefully that helps show how you can evaluate new retrieval methods. We are going to add more data sets to evaluate on, and we're also going to make the public benchmarks actually show a more comprehensive leaderboard that you can easily explore, because right now it's a little tough to know what's going on if you look at this. We have a corresponding blog post. I'll link to that in the YouTube description. I'll also link to that. I'll link to the notebook here so that you can run it yourself. I'll link to this public data set. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Really looking forward to continuing to benchmark things, as well as to see what you guys come up with. You know, there's lots of cool ideas out there. Ideas are only as cool as you can benchmark them. So let's do that.